So to further discuss this Jamal ad-Din Allah, Afghani guy, so he was never from Afghanistan. He was hiding his background. He was very popular among people like Blavatsky. Yeah, Blavatsky. And other occultists. He was considered a part of the occult, what do they call it? Occultic Renaissance of the late 1800s. Because so his whole view, especially, I've kind of gotten this idea that that there's, because assembling information on this guy is not difficult. It's finding out who is going on extremely kind of dry history of the dude. Or is there somebody who really gets, like, the only way a guy like Afghani could have his movement is if he had an internal group similar to a Sufi organization. And that's kind of what I've gathered is a part of this, is that he was one of these people that his theology and spiritual ideas were outside of the norm. They were unorthodox in some way as well. This applies also then to Al-Banna of the Egyptian Brotherhood. Now, that interview I posted, toward the end of it is where some very, very important information got dropped. One of these very important pieces of information is about the United Arab Emirates Mosque having a welcome sign in Hebrew at the gates. That speaks volumes. Now, if you really are somebody that you've looked into Islam quite a bit, probably, one, you were like, okay, I get where they're coming from not joining it, but you realize also this isn't as hateful at its... there's a lot about it that the hate in Islam is really something that is this like small part of its teachings that is pumped up to the max. And just like in Christianity, any kind of cruel behavior toward others, that's not really normal teaching, that's not something that's encouraged. You really can't find, it's very difficult, as many people point out, to find scriptural evidence for cruel behavior. But the thing is, though, it gets pumped up to the max because it's just ever so human to want to justify cruel behavior. And so something that I've been, there was this one Islamic dude, a Muslim, he runs a thing, Conspiracy School. If you look up Conspiracy School, he ended up taking all of his books and putting them together, I think in electronic book form is what I've seen. And it's this man, David Livingstone, and he's one of the early, like he would have been, I think he's about 10, 15 years older than me. He's one of the guys who was a part of the early program that was called Western Civilization. So when you took that in school, there was some place that taught teachers how to teach Western Civ. So he's one of the people who's at the very beginning of this, and he's sitting there, and when he writes about it, he's like, this came across as fundamentally in a very elaborate psychological operation. And he's like, because of the way that certain sections of Western Civ were taught, there was a stress on you would know about certain things and not know about whole other sections of history in Western Civ itself. So, like, nobody ever really knows about Dionysus. It's very important when looking at the Western world that was influenced by Syria, Greece, and Rome to know about Dionysus and how important that cult was. and how widespread it was. To know about why the right hand is raised, the left hand is dropped. Why is the right hand perfect and the left hand imperfect? People could say all they want about India. There was a worldwide thing that across the central, equatorial parts of the world, so the Mediterranean as well, of how to count. And when you count, the even numbers are on the right hand. Even numbers being quote unquote round because of the zero, these were perfect. Because in heaven there's no edges. Like there's a wide variety of these things like that. I'm like, that's interesting, but I mean, there's a lot of reasons for this. It was also certain logical things, but that's why the right hand gets raised, is because it could count up to 100 or 10,000. I'm sorry, myrioi, 10,000. So so uplifting the myrioi. He supports the myrioi in his right hand, this kind of thing, the 10,000 things in his right hand. Creation is maintained by his right hand. That's why it's such an old symbol. Now, you see, David Livingstone wrote a book on this, The Dying God. Because he really wanted to get across to people this very fundamental idea that was so different, because he converted to Islam. So he actually wanted to make sure people understood certain ideas that were such as a deity who dies, who ritually dies, and that where this comes from in the Western world, that this was a pre-Christian idea. The Jews kind of always were fighting such an idea after a certain stage in their development, because God does not die. And so Islam really takes this very seriously, that a dying God is a very fundamentally pagan symbol to them. And their scholars, that's like one of their biggest arguments about it. And so now he's rough on Christianity. He just doesn't even particularly seem to like it. But the thing is that what he points out about how Islam really doesn't have a lot of these crazy ideas that you see Muslims do. He's like, that's not Islamic, really. That's just something that people who live there do. Or that's something that's like something weird from a hadith that then grew into a ritual thing that people do. And so there's stuff that he's pointing out that he's like, this is that. So what's interesting is you end up coming away from it, like what I ended up, where I'm looking at the period of time that the Freemasons are all over the Islamic world. The Islamic world is modernizing hand over fist. Hand over fist. By the end of it, you end up, by my lifetime, where you have this absolutely backward people who are associated with wearing pajamas, turbans, and sandals all the time, and those are the men. And that they're like not just religious zealots, but that their religion kind of confines them to a life like that. But then you meet these people who are obviously the upper class of the Islamic world, and they're nothing like this. They in no way, shape, or form do these kind of things. They're totally different lifestyles. And you're like, what the fuck? And so what it is that in the Islamic world, violence is so okay among these people like the Salafiyas, like the Jamal ad-Din people. And he's had that influence on Islam. That's not going to go away for like 100 years. It's going to take a long time for that influence to go away. Mohammed bin Salman hates Salafiyas. He hates them. that was the part that was really important toward the end of that guy's video, is that how he started to then get into this whole thing of, despite what's going on with the Palestinians in Gaza, most of the Arabic world understands they need Israel. And that was what became interesting, was that line. They need Israel. Because Israel has too much development. It's too close by. It's full of people who speak all of those languages. People who sometimes only a generation ago, so this could be up to like 60 years ago, they would know like the actual like layout of the land of a country. Do you need to build a hydroelectric dam? Who's going to help you do it, blah, blah, blah. And then the other thing is, who's going to actually do it? That if you give them money, you will have a dam at the end of it. This is another issue that Americans and the American left in no way likes to take seriously. The Islamic world is kind of a world of corruption that now and then gets something done. This is also a big part of the whole thing of secret societies and small groups and interclan warfare and tribal warfare that's always going on. Islam does not, for some strange reason, with even its extremely lawful, that it's big on law. It's big on Islam. It teaches you how to govern people. Like who's in charge of whom in society. Very strictly. Very, very, very strictly. And so it's like really weird that they cheat each other in ways that are just so egregious. Egypt is stultified now because of the Muslim Brotherhood. Egypt has no economy, but yet you'll see people working all the time. They don't have a job. That job doesn't exist. Officially, that job doesn't exist. They have an economy that just isn't even on the map because it's not official, because all of the offices of state, all of the many tiers of organizing society, they all are fucked because it's so corrupt. And so there is no official job. It's very similar with China. Very similar to China. This is why Salafis and Commies have a really weird affinity for one another. So what Salafism touches, it seems to corrupt horribly. Otherwise, you would have Ataturk. Notice that guy Dan praised post-Ataturk's Turkey, and that he just put it as, no, cultures change. He said they just change. They at some point, for whatever reason, you won't ever know why, but cultures will change. He goes, just look at Turkey. And that was brilliant when he pointed that out. I was like, that's brilliant that you chose, because that's the weak spot of Islam. They hate how Ataturk did them. It's amazing, the insults. Ataturk, Jew, Ataturk, homosexual, crypto Jew. So people who don't get, when in the Islamic world, people are praising governments that white women in the Western world like, such as Turkey, where white women could go there and visit at one time. They were modern. Their women aren't don't have to wear a box around them all the time. And what does Islam think? What does the Islamic YouTube commentator think? They think that this is a corrupt crypto-Jewish system created by a homosexual. None of those things are good, just so in case you didn't know. Those are all supposed to be insults of some sort. So that's that. I just wanted to do that, just to kind of ring the bell a little on how ridiculous some of these arguments by the Islam simps, these Western American, these limp dicks and these weird women who like think, especially the trannies, these trannies who are like thinking that they would fit into the world of Islam, and it's like they obviously haven't seen the entry in Wikipedia. It's still there for Kochek, that there's two entries. One has no umlauts on the O. The real entry has umlauts on the O, and it explains exactly the sexual slavery of young boys. So they'd become dancing boys, and you could prostitute them fundamentally as a Muslim because they weren't Christians. And that was the way of the Turks. That was the way of the Ottomans. And every once in a while, there would be some guy who wasn't super villainous, and everybody acts like he was so great. He was so great, dude. He, like, didn't rape all of you. He didn't, like, even kill half of you. Oh, my God. You know how great of a dude he was? And that's really the way that they see things. You know, do you realize, like, how merciful he was to your people? He, like, left some of you alive. Mehmet was the shit, you know? And so it's like... And I like how Dan put that. I think it's Schufterman is his name. I like how he put that. He goes, if you don't understand this part of the world, you don't understand how we must treat these people. You know, they don't respect you until you beat the crap out of them. And this is the thing that really showed with most of the liberals when dealing. Obama, he brought up Obama and Obama's foreign policy, fantastic. How Obama was one of these people who was not only a typical duplicitous American, that he would tell both parties one thing, and then he would pull the nip on both of them. Both of them would kind of lose, and in America would come up, and Obama would come out acting like he had done something really amazing with that position that he does, where he just raises his chin up and, you know, gets that side shot of his right side. He really is a narcissistic psychopath, and a lot of black Americans who are leaving the Democratic Party, you have to understand that his quasi-gayness is a big reason why so many older blacks are into him. Is that, I mean, like, he just doesn't, he's scrawny like a little boy, you know, and he's supposedly some genius, this, that, and the other. But I mean, he literally was his second term. I mean, like, he's so brilliant that by his second term, he caused the entire world to suddenly have red-hot nationalist, anti-liberal movements. That's how ingenious Barack Obama supposedly was. That whatever he and the Pentagon were up to, by the end of it, Israel was like, we're ready for anything now. and they showed it. That's what's going on. They're like, okay, you thought we were slipping, and now they're going to crush. They're going to crush Hamas, and they're going to crush Hamas in a way that they're going to make sure to turn and look at our supporters of peace talks and ceasefire and everything. They're going to be like, oh, oops, and they're going to just like shoot the in the ankle, just blow Hamas's ankle, like the foot just goes flying off. Oh, whoops. Boy, this trigger on these Desert Eagles is slippery. No, I mean, they're going to make it hurt. I really want a lot of people to remember that what Israel is definitely going to do is they're like, oh, you wanted a ceasefire? You wanted a ceasefire? Bam! Oh, you wanted a ceasefire? Oh no, this Desert Eagle just keeps talking so loud over the sounds of your screaming and hollering, and they will do that. And they're going to look at our activists and our Democrats, and they're going to make it hurt. They have no, and it's because they realize Salafis and commies are too alike. They're two alike, and you have to make it hurt. You have to embarrass them, you have to humiliate them, and then you have to make it clear you're going to have to come at us with so much well-organized violence that's it. Like, you will be making your decision at that stage. You'll be deciding from that point on. So, and Israel gets that. The American right is about to start fully learning this. Really, the American right does need a few Israelis to, like, address them, and address them in that manner. Like, I know many of you would like peace, you would like this, explain their point of view, but then every once in a while just say something based as hell. You know, like, just like how in America, no, we haven't crushed Antifa, and what's happened? Antifa people now go to jail, they say they're women, they go into women's prisons and rape them. Antifa people traffic kids. Antifa people caught dealing drugs. Antifa people caught with weapons and explosives. All this stuff, and because we wouldn't crush them. Because it was in some kind of weird FBI Pentagon operation, and now we can't crush them, and we're going to have to. And a lot of liberals, a lot of people who are even remotely, like, you have left the Democratic Party, you're like, I don't know about it. You don't know. I'm telling you. We've been doing this research, and this is going to keep going. The entire Arab world and Israel know they have to crush their Salafists, just like Al-Sisi said. Al-Sisi said he's going to crush the Salafis. Mohammed bin Salman, the Muslim Brotherhood is a cancer, and I am going to excise it. And once that process starts, that's going to start at the edges of the world, and it's going to move toward the center, and which you're already seeing, where the farmers and the actual labor class is now almost physically showing up to places and burying them. I mean, think of that. They're physically burying things in poo-poo to protest how much they don't like this central government, centralized governance model of the EU, NATO, the US, and the Pentagon, and Brussels running everything. And that, yeah, I'm actually enjoying more that most news sources have to now not show most of the important news. And also, I mean, again, they're going to crush Hamas. They're going to torture them in front of us. That's what's going to happen. Everybody better just get ready for it. They're going to see full Israel. They're going to see something that they've never. They're going to be like, that's based as fuck, and it's coming. I was waiting for somebody like Dan, but yeah, it's going to be based as fuck. And now also, because of all this information coming out of that region of the world, everybody's starting to learn, Lebanon doesn't even have a government. The Islamists there ruined everything. The Muslims came in and ruined everything. This is another thing. Dan could easily point out, no, there is no anti-colonial movement of Islam. Islam is the ultimate colonist. They're the ultimate colonists. There's nobody who can even compare themselves to Islam as a colonial power. Like, Britain in no way, shape, or form can compare themselves to Islam in colonial power. Like, Britain couldn't hold on to its colonies for more than like a couple hundred years. Islam's held on to its colonies through rape and killing for like hundreds more. And so that's what they do. That's how it works. And they even tell you, if you let us into your country and you let us breed, we will take over and we'll make you do what we want. We believe that. That's how they really think, like communists. It's a very similar way of thinking. That's why the Western American way of thinking with Christianity as its spinal column is so much better. People keep trying to say, like, oh, but if Christianity did this and did that, and it's like, you keep confusing all these kings and lords fighting each other over the actual ideas during a peaceful time. When Islam has more than enough food and drink, they are still exceedingly violent toward everyone who's not like them. They don't make peace until they are weak, until they are absolutely almost beaten to death. Then suddenly they'll come to terms. This is going to be the same thing with Ukraine. They have a secret society of Nazis, neo-Nazis, and they are not going to tap out until, like, Zelensky is brutally destroyed. Or that seems to be really the most interesting part of this. Why isn't Vladimir Putin going after Zelensky himself? Like, has that hit anybody? How odd that is? I mean, he has to be able to put the touch on him in some way, shape, or form, but he's not. So what if I was Putin, what he's doing is humiliating Zelensky. He's only having more fun humiliating Zelensky than killing him. If he kills Zelensky, then he has to deal with just whoever was really running things. But with this guy, to make Zelensky look like shit, to demoralize the effort in the EU, and that's priceless. Like, I really started to think about that one, because there's some people online that like kind of making this claim, well, Russia obviously doesn't have the ability to do this, that, or the other, or they would have. And I'm like, I don't know. Let me think. Let me think about that. Because that does make sense. You would think that they would have already done that. And then I started to think about it, and I was like, the West really likes having images of Zelensky talking, look at this guy, he owns a Kabilas, and he's the president of Ukraine. And, your favorite strip club owner, Volodymyr. But it's best to just humiliate him. I mean, like, every few months, Zelensky looks dumber and less competent, and Putin just glows brighter with more laser eyes. And he laughs. He's laughing at all of us. He's having a great time laughing at us with his 3% growth. 3% growth. Oh my God. And these people who and this whole thing of that the liberals know better. 3% growth in Russia. Ukraine, we have to lie constantly about 30,000. He just said 30,000 dead. The official number that we have is 70. It's probably somewhere upward of 120. And they would have to conscript almost every Devori that knows how to speak Ukrainian to make up for this. They'd have to empty a football stadium full of fucking hooligans to stock their forces. I mean, it's just sad. It's just fucking sad. And we're just like sitting, here's some more money, go and die. Dumbass Slavs, go and die, you dummies, And the liberals are like, this is totally working. In this case, the news is definitely telling me the truth. And, newsman, TV man is telling me the truth, and I'm loving this. To me, it's only getting kind of more and more fascinating as I'm like, how are you Gen X fans of Black Flag, and now you trust the government? I just look at people and I'm like, we were Gen X. We grew up on dead Kennedys and Rage Against the Machine, and you trust the government now. And you know they're lying to you. Like, you have to admit it now, over and over and over again. I'm just loving this. I'm just like, this has to... But then I realized, like, no. Then, it's that moment where I'm like, okay, oh yeah, so here, let me show you how, yeah, the stupid is everywhere, dude. Look at that stupid shit. Look at there's some other poster, some goddamn commie or Muslim piece of shit. They got some poster up on this. And in the middle of Oregon, rural Oregon, that they have these posters up, like that shit is going to mean a goddamn thing here. And I think we have one mosque in this city. And I believe we're at 200,000 people, and we have like one mosque. And I don't even know if that stays open. So it's just, but we've got a big old school. We've got a big old school that takes commie money, turns it into football, and then the football people save the school, by the locals watching the football. That's a great scam. That's a good scam. Don't crave cold fusion. Oh no. Cold fusion is valuable. Oh no. No. Anyway, all right. Oh, the coffee's kicking in hard now. I'm going to have to get something at the store here. But then I think I'm going to have to go off on something that I saw on YouTube that Counterpoints was saying. I think I'm going to have to go off. All right, later.